First, welcome everyone. New South Wales Education Night for June. And yeah, we've got Paul giving us a presentation, but first, Treasurer would like to say something.
Yes.
What is this you've got here?
As we all know already, Mick was recently awarded the Investigator of the Year by the IAAI.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I was the lucky one who got to collect the award.
It's all the way from North Carolina.
So, congratulations.
Oh,
Here's
thank
your
you.
award finally.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks for Sonia to bring on here. Bit of a social. He's our social man. Thank you. No, listen, it's good to finally get it. It's,
There's marks.
oh yeah, and congratulations to Mark. Your award is there as well. He got first place. Second place in photographic competition. So well done. But yeah, very very chuffed to receive this. Thank you. And yeah, amazing. So that's great. But anyway, what are we here for? We're not here for me. Maybe no, we're here for listening to Paul. So Paul's been a long time member of AFI, but also RFS, and he's done a lot of great work, especially teaching me how to investigate a wildfire because I've got no idea. But yeah, he's very good with that. And his presentation tonight is going to be about deliberate wildfires in the MacArthur zone. So thank you, Paul. Let's go.
Can everyone see that?
You're all on mute, so a couple of people will be monitoring chat. I'll talk about it in a moment. First of all, thank you, Michael, our educational officer in the committee, to allow me to talk about the experiences we've had with deliberately lit wildfires in MacArthur. I'm trying not to use the word arson. I've been retrained in my older ways of actually using the word deliberately lit because it's a highly technical question there. So we're actually going to look at the MacArthur zone and the multiple agency cooperation. That actually, I hadn't included this, but Forbesy did mention a fire that he went to and I went to, and he came back later and actually did some drone footage. That's right. When you could fly them without crashing them.
That was a long time ago.
A long time ago, and I actually used some of that drone footage in the court matter a few years later when we arrested someone. So we actually had a multiple agency cooperation across the whole of Mar. So the stakeholder engagement. So people have said to me over the years, Paul, how do you do this? You know, when you get a series of deliberately lit fires. So I understand that there may be some people from interstate and there may be possibly overseas as well. So we'll just take it slowly and, you know, as we go through. But first of all, I'd like to make some, I'll get this high tech working. Yep, there we go. So I want to acknowledge the work of the wildfires and structural fire investigators across New South Wales. We actually had a large team when I was fully involved in deployment. I had a large team, and that team has continued to grow. And we had a lot of support from the MacArthur Zone Office. And I talk about staff when we're doing that, the relationship with their staff and volunteers and paid staff doing the fire investigations is so important. And they're all important stakeholders as well as the community. And many years ago, Bob Madison and Mark Fulliger helped me through my time as full-time as a coordinator of fire investigations and inspired me to do things. Now we've got Claire and Angus. I noticed Angus is online, and Mark and Jono. Jono's in the room. And the acknowledgement of the staff, I really need to say that because I mean it, you know. The other thing is, as we go through, and I don't want to sort of waste too much time about the acknowledgements, but the support from the local area command is so important. They're your key stakeholders. And There could be some police officers online, so I'll be careful what I'll say. I will not mention any court matters that we're actually involved in or been previously involved in. So we come across 3 local area commands. They call them PACs now: Campbelltown, Liverpool, and Camden. And most of this work is actually based in the Campbelltown LGA, not the Campbelltown PAC, Police Area Command. And it's just so that people understand, and some people, lay people might not know, that New South Wales Police Arson Squad get involved in supporting the local police area commands as needed. You know, when they have a big incident come in, or arrests and things like that, that are preparing cases and things like that, they actually have the funds to actually put in to the investigation. Because once I had a talk at a Dubbo once about the workload of a detective in a local area command, how many cases is on his desk, he or she's desk. Then they transferred that across to the arson squad, and they have less cases, but they can go into more depth to help and support people if they go in. The not correct terminology of police arson squad, but I need to acknowledge these great people. Okay, there's 2 special mentions. Shane Bryant presented last time his work on the Western Parklands fires for our last presentation. And I want to acknowledge Shane. For those who know Shane, he's actually just flown back from Europe after he's sent over these photos of him floating up and around coastal parts. And he explained to me that, you know, the Londoners last week were complaining about 26 degrees of heat wave. And I explained to him at my place in Camden, it was -3 degrees that morning. And Shane's actually on a train between Sydney Airport and his home at Penrith, but I will be thanking him and acknowledging him. Richard Woods released a book. Have you read it?
No, I haven't.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yes.
It's $90, Forbesy, but our library has got it. I'm going to put my uniform on and go to my council library and give them the details. And there's only 1 copy in the Australian National University. It's not in the library system yet. So Camden Council, I hope, will buy it.
Yep.
But it's Angus has read it, but it's a light read, not a heavy read. As Richard Woods, I actually may be online, but he will watch it, I'm sure. But when you read through it, and Forbes even knows that when you read through it, hey, we're doing that. That makes sense. You don't have to rewrite it. And Richard actually was working internationally, as we all know, and he'll be hopefully a presenter further down the track. So he was the manager of fire investigations when I started back in 2005. And for those in the RFS, they lost, we had cut multiple copies, but they lost a copy in the post to me and still hasn't turned up. But I have read it, and it is well worthwhile.
It's only just been released too, isn't it?
I just released. Yeah. Yes, you can get it as a Google thing, but it's a light read. It's not a heavy textbook read, but it should be, not, I wouldn't say the word mandatory, recommended for firefighters, and you pick up some things. He talks about some arsonists and little cases he was involved in, and there's some of the signs. And during my talk, I say, oh, now I can see what Swenny's talking about, you know. So, well, you know, worthwhile, great work. So during the Zoom meeting, we've got a couple of people who are monitoring if the chat, if I'm too loud or going too fast, or, you know, speed it up. You know, my dinner's getting cold. They will stop me, and I hope someone's watching. Yeah, we've got one that, you know, can you hear me? One of the concerns about this, we had a few more people say, you know, we've only got 6 people in the room, but it's well worth doing, you know, so that people can continue on with these sorts. So please ask questions. I'd like you to stop me, and Ben will stop and ask questions as we go. All right, so in New South Wales Rural Fire Service, we use the following systems for firing. Icon is our incident control online. So this is our main operations room at Olympic Park, and the way it's all configured, and the centre of the room, the incident control. I won't go into all that, but we have a reporting system like all agencies. And this is one of the things that, you know, Richard does touch on. He helped develop some of the reporting in the early days of our reports. So we have, you know, Icon is our go-to, our structure fires, our wildfires, our tragic bus accidents that we have, and incidents, planes down, helicopters, etc. But a recent addition we actually have now is hazards near me. Is what was the other app called? Fires near me. So hazards near me is available to everyone, but you can also get a tsunami alert and your flood alerts and things like that. So one of the things that I actually do in hazards near me, when I've got a target area, say suburb A, I set up a target for that one and I get all the notifications of fires, including fire and rescue fires that are in my target area. And they just get a little beep and you can go in and have a look, find out reason, get the incident number and look at it. So hazards near me is available to everyone. It's also covering floods. I live in Camden and we'll talk about the Georges River. And many years ago, during the cyclone Tracy, I was involved with them. So, we need, because where I live in Camden, we have a lot of flooding, and 3 flooding events in a year really devastates the town. So those people internationally, you can actually do it. So all our education officers travelling on a train, you can have a hazards near me and you can get the bings in London or Hong Kong and where things are, especially with the big fires. So we can get warnings. And my brother has a house down Sussex, and for a while I had that till he rang me one day, showed me a photo of the one of our fire trucks outside the local RSL, and he said, I didn't even get a chance to order him a beer, your mates are here. So, but it is something worthwhile. RFS Active is a recent introduction into the service, and this is how we page our fire crews to call out the old bells, if you want to call it that.
I've never heard of it.
Haven't you?
No. Never heard of it.
Forbes, where you been living?
I'm definitely not RFS.
There you go. So actually, this is how we notify our brigades. In my district, at 10 o'clock in the morning, they change over duty officers. So he adds himself into it. So he receives all the activations, so he can see what's going on, who's been paged. And that is now, RFS Active is actually set up and activated in the centre of the room.
So it's an app, or is it just?
It's an app.
Oh, okay.
It's an app. And then the centre of the room, the OCC, activates the brigade, Lappington Brigade, to go out and do their job. And then if that job actually requires fire investigation, of course, a wildfire criteria or structural criteria, then they page the fire investigators in the zone. So we all, the 6 of us, get that all at one time if you're available. And if you're on a fire truck, you put a thumbs up or a thumbs down. And when you get in your fire appliance, you look at the app and you can see which members are coming to join you on that fire truck. Okay, so we're getting sort of centralised dispatch and all those other things for a volunteer workforce of over 70,000. Sometimes it comes between 70 and 77,000 volunteers, which can go crazy through the day and night. So they're the 3 systems we use: the Icon, the Hazards Near Me, and RFS Active. I'm happy to take any messages on that one. So what do we formally investigate? And this is one of the things I'll just go through slowly, but I'll mention down the bottom here, New South Wales Police Force. So I live in a place, Barrington Grove, Camden, and if my house burns down and a general duties constable comes in and looks at, oh, there's nothing suspicious and it burns down. Now, and I said to my wife, is our house, it's only 8 years old, 500,000. Oh no, we didn't pay for that. So the constable will take the details, and I forget, and it's an insurance matter.
You know that figure's changed.
Yeah, we haven't caught up yet.
Oh, 2.
So there is no figure now, and it's up
That's
to the
what learning's about. Yep.
It's up to the police to decide if it's going to go to the coroners or not.
Oh, the coroner.
But yeah, we're AFI, we've submitted it up to RFS head office, like,
Yeah.
and they're a little slow
And that was a coroner's directive.
yeah.
Last year. I get the email.
Oh, no, that's all right. No, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. That was when I'm told what to do.
Yeah.
So for the
But
point,
It used to be all that, how much, 501, oh shit, 499, perfect,
Yeah.
I'll see you later.
so it's our criteria. What do we investigate? Because the question I ask when I talk about proactive approach that we have to have in the MacArthur zone, is that we cannot physically get out and investigate all fires. However, some American systems, LA sheriffs that I've talked about sometimes, that's a figure you need to start with. So if you've got media or public interest, declaration of section 44, like the Holsworthy fire that went through and no one was injured and no great property loss. It actually was in Fire and Rescue's area, but I started it and Fire and Rescue were happy to me to do it because under the section 44, we still have to investigate it. So they said, "Oh, you can do it, let's go," you know, and they're more than happy because that report has to go before the coroner, and that's important. And for those who don't know, in New South Wales, the coroner can investigate any fire. We had a 1 metre square fire the other night, and they could ask that. So deliberately lit, deliberately, keep going now. Deliberately lit ignitions or multiple ignitions. When I get asked to do fire investigations and they say there's been multiple fires, I love it. That's a reason for us to go, and it's easy for me to determine, you know, that's a deliberately lit fire. And if we look at sequences, and I've got something to show there. Any fire as determined by the commissioner. So the commissioner down, any paid officer says to me, "Paul, you need to get out and look at that one for me," and that's fine. So we do a whole variety, and there's criteria, but we are very conscious that we can't investigate everything. But one of the learnings I had when I first retired, when I went to a conference in LA, New York, Las Vegas, sorry. The LA Sheriff's Department took me for a ride along. They have 25 helicopters. And they have 2 fire investigators currently sitting in their office 24/7 and a team of fire investigators. But they investigate everything. And the learnings I got from that with the ride along I had with a sergeant with LA Sheriffs is that, Paul, you need to get along to everything. And they investigate a 1 metre square fire on the side of a freeway. And I brought that back, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But that's one of the things that you sort of got to be aware of, because what their history was in the LA, they had a serial fire, arsons going around, and they went one night from one job to another. If they seen anything, they picked it up. Then they didn't have time to process the thing because he was running a spree, running really hot. So, you know, Forbes and some of us have been out chasing that, and they get to be a real problem.
That's the West Hollywood arsons.
That's the one.
The German national.
That's the one. You know, the one, and that's those, and that learning I brought back to New South Wales.
52 fires over 4 days.
Yep.
So it's in that Ed Nordskold's book.
Yep. And you don't have time to catch up when you're doing, and this is our experience, and this is what happens with us with section 44s, and we sometimes get arsons running around or deliberate fire riders. So a little bit about Macarthur. Macarthur's an administrative area in the New South Wales zone, and we come under the Greater Sydney Area Command inside the state of New South Wales, Australia, and the region includes the local government areas of Campbelltown, Camden, Fairfield and Liverpool. People forget that Fairfield, part of Fairfield is a part of a local government area inside our command, Greater Area Command. So it is the city is a local government area in the Macarthur region, southwest of Sydney in New South Wales, Australia. I'll put that in for our overseas people, and because this will go overseas. There is located about 55 kilometres southwest of Sydney Central Business District and comprises of 312 square kilometres. So the actual area of Campbelltown LGA is actually quite large, and it borders on the Georges River. Why it's important that we talk about the Georges River, on the other side from the Campbelltown LGA, we have a military area. So we cop the military fires. Either our fires can spread into the military area, or they'll start in the military and come out. And there's operational requirements there, but we are tasked to actually investigate, and our investigators go into the military area under escort and have to do those as well, okay? Because that becomes under, I could tell you a story, but some people wouldn't like it. So the LGA has hectares of open space, lots of open space. One of the places we go to a lot is an old tip. which has been covered in and grassed over, and it's continually light, and we just plot them along as they go, and police go chasing them. Open space includes everything from native bushlands, and we have some beautiful native bushlands. And as I was driving Ben along there a couple of weeks ago, kangaroos are going along the fire trails, and it's great to see that. We've got a large koala and possum habitat areas, and the picnic shelters and barbecues and playgrounds, cycling and walking tracks. So it's a lot of, as well as fairly dense socioeconomic depressed areas and people who are struggling with day-to-day life. Okay, so MacArthur's own suspicious fires, and over the 12 years, I just want to point out that we went in 12 to 11, and we've jumped up to 83 in a year. Suspicious fires. That's just in our. When it's not including fire and rescue, and it's just our wildfires. Okay, so we've gone from 44 to 83, and you can see on the screen a lot better than I can in the, the 16, 17, 18, then we start to move down. And we've gone down into the 2020 and 22, 14, 20, and currently 8. So the reason for the talk is, how can a zone go from 83 fires down to 8? There must be a reason, and there's several very easy reasons. Because Forbes, he looks back at his zone drone log, which period that one was, it was on part of the thing. So the top photo is a typical fire that you would see in the Aids, Macfields area. There'd be one of the ones well before this time. I sent a fire investigator out to him, and he had 18 ignitions on the day before a Tobin day on his first fire investigation. So he had a really good learning curve. Turned out to be a great investigator, went to court and got a suspect.
18 ignitions in that one fire, or
Yeah,
18 separate fires?
18 separate fires.
Oh, okay.
As you went along. And just the plotting. And he actually did a rather interesting thing aside. He actually, Phil Craig had a witch's hat. He was an electrician. Then he got a, what do you call, electrical pole, and put an arrow on it. On each fire, he stuck the witch's hat and the arrow for the north direction. Oh, nice. Which is really good. Now we have yellow markers for A, B, C. And when I worked with forensic doing the Holsworthy fire, I used to call fire 1, 2, 3. And the sergeant gave a talk a couple of years ago. He said, when we started together as a task force, let's start numbering the fires the same way. And we decided to call it A, B, C, by mutual agreement. Yeah. So we had, when we both went to court for the matter, it was a coroner's matter for the Holsworthy one, we did that one. The bottom one is a slope down on the Georges River. So we often have fires along the Georges River. So what our, let's say, could I use the word clientele of people who light fires, go for a swim. Some of them smoke, they might do other things, but on the way home, they would light, as on where the tree is on the top, there's the Georges River down the bottom, they're going for a swim, and as they're walking home, they would light up. They don't normally light in the middle of the peak of the day, it's in the late afternoon. So we have a strategy where we stand up our fire investigators on Tobin days, and I said, well, there's no point being around the office at 9 o'clock in the morning, which you've got work to do. Come in around 2, be around 5 to 7 is the time that they will light up. So, my point of why 83 down to 10 and 8 COVID, yes, and that would have made a big improvement in the change in the numbers. So what? So we also have our zone. We also have area command. We have staff in the area command that actually can supply us with information, help with maps, and our headquarters FICU fire investigation unit. They actually can help with the intel. So a lot of people don't know, for the last over 10 years, we've actually had an RFS member, a staff member, embedded in the arson squad at Parramatta, and sits in there at least one day of the week. And we all know when the police are very active, because when there's fires on, they all ring up and want their icon access done again. So they're actually taking an interest and look at it, you know. So we can actually produce these overlays for Fairfield, Badgerys Creek, and as you can see a lot better on that one, of the heat maps of, you know, suspicious fires. So we had a concentration. Yes, sir.
Paul, what is the difference between arson, incendiary, and suspicious?
I could ask Angus that one, but if he wants to come online and tell me that. Angus, you want?
Can you just move the thing? What's the this map? Is there a time thing on it? What's it? Oh, 2013 to 2020. Okay, yeah.
Paul,
Yes, Angus, go.
right. Apologies if there's a barking dog in the background, but so they're basically causes of suspected fire causes within our icon reporting system. So arson is where they suspect, well, back for that map range was when they suspected multiple firelighters and police had a POI. Incendiary was use of incendiary device, juvenile fire play, as we all know. Suspicious was where they couldn't determine if an incendiary device was used and potentially hot set. Miscellaneous other is generally fire rescue jobs in our system because the suspected cause doesn't come across, and undetermined explains itself.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Angus. And our next one gives you suspicious fire activity for 2013-21. So it actually goes to heat map and we can actually focus on it, but we already know, and you can see why. So this comes important when we start moving into task force. So we have a task force Toronto, which is always active, current. So we keep feeding information from the RFS system into the police system, and you can see some of the things we've developed over the years.
So the river there, what's that river?
That's the Georges River.
Okay, so that's on that eastern side. Is
Yep.
that just more vegetation? Is that why?
That's Holsworthy.
Ah,
That's
right.
Holsworthy.
There you go.
Holsworthy
Okay.
Army Camp.
So that's why.
Yeah.
There's not many fires there.
Yeah.
Cool.
And of course, this whole area is subject to lightning strikes. And people forget that, you know, we can have those summer storms that come through,
Yeah.
and you know, then we've got to go bang and
So
yeah.
obviously that previous map doesn't show any of those lightning because it's not.
No, they're not lightning, yeah.
Okay, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, because
How many would you get in a?
there's not many, because we're in the sandstone area.
Yeah.
We actually get more lightning hits of incendiary in Camden Coverty area. So we've actually get the tree splitting and a paddock going up. And we actually got an education program where we say to our farmers, can you get out and check after lightning? Can you check your properties for us? And we have planes that go over and all those sorts of things.
Typically see more lightning on the Blue Mountains.
Blue Mountains,
because of
altitude.
particular rock work and other things like that. That attracts more lightning activity. Down this area, it's either going to be intentionally lit or people burning off in some of the more rural areas.
Okay. And one of the important things to point out to people along the Georges River, you know, when you walk along an area and you feel the fuel loading, the crunch of your trees and the leaves now, it can rain tonight. And in this area of Campbelltown, we will have running fires tomorrow. Because of the sandstone, the water just seeps in. There's no drying. Off it'll go.
Right, but after lightning.
No, after rain event comes through, the next day or two, you can have fires.
What, from spontaneous ignition?
Not spontaneous, but deliberate.
Suspicious.
Suspicious. Yeah, no. We don't normally have peat fires.
Yep.
It's not an area. The Canadians, if you follow what the Canadians are doing, God, there's some bloke from the remote areas talking about all these things. I'm glad I'm not going. But it doesn't matter if it rains and a couple of days later, and you know, I teach the lay people to say 3 days of 30 degrees, anything will burn, especially in Campbelltown. You know, for people who don't know, especially with genuine duties constable that comes out to do a job. All right, so we've this project Lucifer that we're actually data that's on the screen now is part of an active thing that Angus is involved in with Arson Squad. So we regularly, and if you look down, I can point over on this side, Riverside Walk over there where the heat map is. That's where we get a lot of the fires that come down around that area in there. And for intel, we're looking at, it's not so much for the fire investigators, but the police investigators attached to the local area command, the PAC, and they are the ones that actually go through there. Simo's Beach and keeps coming in and out. So that's a handy thing. So what we actually do with this is, I don't do it, but the service, Angus and Fire Investigations, share it with police, and police send it out to their area command for the intel officers. For those who are associated with police, the intel officers are a vital role in this work for us. So if we can feed them plots where the fires are, then they can do their detective stuff in there as well, which is really, really good. Okay, so what we did back 10 years ago, I had a discussion with our then zone manager, Kerry Parkinson, who's gone off to bigger and better things. Zone staff and our fire investigators, we started to target all wildfires. Yes, all wildfires. So like I said about LA sheriffs, they go to everything. So in Campbelltown LGA from 2030, we attended all the wildfires and investigated. You know, a metre by a metre, not a problem, put it in. And there's a reason for that, which we'll come back into later. There's one little exception which broke this week to the area called Weatherburn and the Gorge area. Not a lot of suspicious fires, deliberately lit fires. We do have some till the 1st of June, where we had one at 2 o'clock in the morning, then 2 on another road coming out, then 6 fires at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning. So we had something like 6 fires between 2 o'clock and 7 o'clock. I'm still writing reports on those ones. So we're now targeting Weatherburn. So in that little app thing, I'll target Weatherburn, anything there, and they'll pop up and I'll get notifications of everything. And that's a complete addition to our things. So having a focus area was vital as we can investigate all fires in that LGA. So we target places known as Aids and Macquarie Fields, the Woolwash, Simo's Beach. And even at Simo's Beach on a toe band day, just before the command came through, we had an excellent supportive local area superintendent. It was a big fella, 40, real big bloke. And he said on a toe band day, 2 detectives sit on that gate into Simo's Beach and record everyone. So 2 coppers had to sit there, detectives had to sit there and record everyone that went into Simo's Beach. Of course, it was a high risk area that we were getting lots in that 83 area, 83 fires. So they were proactive. Then he suggested, and made a suggestion to his crews that they stopped and searched anyone that came out of the bush area to see whether they were carrying anything they could possibly. And he gave that direction, and that worked, and it comes in. This resulted in several arrests and convictions of the target area. So our work with them, they work with us, and if they need, we need them to do reports. And we're only working now. Campbelltown and Macquarie Fields used to be 2 area separate commands, then they formed 1 pack. So we only deal with 1 area command. And maybe the ministry could dial either one as their manned, and there's people there all the time. But the important part about this was there was no local meetings. When I was in the job, I used to go to meetings as part of my role, and they'd seal the minutes and put them in safes and all sorts of things. Everything was done by email. Okay, so we don't, in terms of time management, we haven't been using a lot of people's time up with that, which was good. So what we did, we set up a fire investigation pager group for fire investigators, and we just had a normal pager beep, beep, beep type thing. And now we go on to active, and our zone officer, area command or headquarters can activate that. As a fire investigator, I don't post to it, I don't do it, I just put a thumbs up available, no, I'm not. and we put our availability on there. So when a job comes in, people can look and say, oh, and I spend a bit of time away travelling and things like that. So we attend all fires and submit our fire investigation reports promptly. So these are the typical sort of ones that we'd see there. You see the residential house there, and someone's lit a fire in the bushland, walkable, easy to see. But people get really concerned when fires here, and we've got houses here, and our acid protection zone and things like that. So in this one here, there was several fires, 4 fires. Individual fires ended up growing into one big fire and mapping that. So we can do that. And, police could say, oh, that's there, and we'll have a look at where people are and where they live and all that sort of stuff and information. So we're actually moved on with that sort of stuff. This was stuff in 13 and 14, and that's the concern for the community. We do get a lot of reporting from the community through OOO, and we'll get multiple calls for a simple job. Okay, so police event numbers, I just want to spend a little bit of time on that one. Police event numbers in our system has been, is just, Forbesy didn't pay the electricity bill here. So you don't get Forbesy, working in the dark. Any questions here? All right. So what actually happens now, the zone staff electronically request a police event via the PAL system. If what our duty officers are starting to learn after a series of these sort of things, it's easy to call the police in. Our system calls the police into it and they can attend. And once there's a confirmed fire, and we will insist if police attend if we've got any information, any items to be picked up, because we don't want our firefighters picking up items. Our fire investigators are trained to do that. But having an event number is so important. And what we actually do in our icon, as you can see on this one here in 2017, an event number, local police car crew attended on the night. Okay, and I will put in there, if no car crew attended, a PAL event number, and I'll say police did not attend this event. For us, minor, but police, we didn't get there, so they get the details of the start.
So the PAL system, is that police or RFS?
As police,
Oh.
a police assistance line.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Yeah. So what actually happens within rural fire, as a fire investigator, if I submit a report and I don't have a police event number attached to it, the supervisor, reviewing officer returns it.
Never happened.
You go and get an event number. So we then have to go to the staff. Paid staff must get this event number through the electronic PAL system. I thought it was a long delay, but now it's a turnaround of 3 days. With such a time frame you can actually get. Okay, so the PAL number is put in the report, so that by the reader says, bang, a PAL number, we've got an event number, the police have got it, and if they want any information, they can come back to us. They go through HQ, and they don't ring me directly unless I'm attached to it. We have a little things. I was asked to investigate a fire, Pittman Crescent Airs by the New South Wales Rural Fire Service, Macarthur Zone Duty Officer Darren Vatcher on the 19th of January 2017. We actually always put hours and AM. I was pointed out to me in court, Paul, what's the difference? So rather than get caught in court, put both of them in from that day, or put both of them in there. And I now even put the 19th of January as the day of the week. So I turned up, it was a Wednesday, and I turned up to investigate this on the Thursday, or whatever, small things as you go through and you're doing, not blasé with it, but sometimes which ones are going to go to court, and you need to,
So we rarely capture the event number for police.
Well, we have a system, and you can see those heat maps that we're producing. And it's very easy. When you see in a couple of slides, Forbes, I think you'll agree with me. So some of the community outcomes are for the reduction of deliberate fires. So, we're looking after the natural state, the big word, ecological and all that, the fire management plans. And when we have a fire, if we've got a burn plan, there's a fire already been there, we cannot burn it. It's part of our fire mitigation programs. And, people are saying, well, what does burn? So, we've got to have planned burning. We're now in the mass burning side marketplace of people. So when you use the number of call out of our unpaid volunteers, I've had people in the brigade system come up to me, oh, you're a rat. And I didn't say that word. You can imagine the word they used me, Sweeney. You stopped all these fires. We had 80 odd calls and you're going down to 8, And what we're actually doing is having less calls, but they realise, and we'll talk a little bit about that one. So when we talked about the Georges River, so, slips and falls, sometimes they're walking down very steep terrain to get in down to the river. They let them trickle over the side or start at the bottom and got the right conditions going up. So we have a high, we don't get that many injuries, but we have a risk of people there. And the other important thing is the lower cost of running a fire service. When you go to an Ayres fire, you might put 3 stations on it. They've got 2 Cat 1s, heavy tankers, 6 tankers running to a 1 metre square fire. Running those 6, if they can get the people on trucks. But, in those days, and people like to do it and get on there. So it lowers the cost, and that's one of the important community reactions. So our system, because I went back to the icon, we can actually dump a series of fires. So you can see the date there is in the year period of 2016. We can read dates better than me, 4, 5 months, 10th month. So one Sunday, I got a phone call at home from an arson squad gentleman who was very supportive to me. He said, oh, Paul, great Excel shoot. We had, quite a few, and this was a separate job. He said, can I tell you to put 2, suggest you put 2 more fields? And I thought, you lazy bugger, it's Sunday. You're sitting in the office quiet and getting your work done, chasing things up. He said, put the day of the week and the time AM and PM. So I added that, and I also added a comment like Easter holidays, spree. Again, PAL events. Police didn't attend these ones. Right? These are all non-attenders for police, and this is going back to 16. Okay. So what we're able to do, the spree was we found a gentleman, a young lad from a southern part of from Campbelltown, and suggested he go back to that area, and it stopped. And that was the support, because I produced this to the police, and then they, these intel officers could go through and spread it into days of the week. And I once said to our fire control officer, we had a series on this Macquariefield tip area that used to burn. It was Monday, Tuesday. It wasn't real hard to work out, but Wednesday and Thursday. When he rang me on Thursday, Sweetie, where are you? I'm sending a copper for you. You told me there's going to be more fires. And he said, there's another one. I said, you can tell the spread, the day and the time. So they'll go down the river and coming up and lighting on the way through. Then when you start plotting these things, this is where, in the background, things like Anzac Day, Easter Monday, school holidays, those sorts of things. When you get a series of these, is well worth. It's not hard to do. As I said, we did the Weatherburn ones and this week, and that sort of changes. So what we do, we establish a police contact. So all the information was sent to the local area command, or now PAC. Never rang them. I never ring them. I never ring a police officer. I only email them. Okay. And always, in turn, when I send anything, when I talk to them, I only use the police event number. I've got a few people smiling at me, they know what I'm talking about. And that way, it's a good communication.
How do you get that a number? Do you have to ring the power line?
No, you just ring the local. If you know the police station, police officers turned up, cars turned up, you ring the station. There was a fire at Menangle Road, Menangle, the 1st of June at 3 a.m. Just a minute. Oh, event number, such and such.
But you're saying the police didn't attend?
It didn't attend. We did a PAL.
You were there?
then we send it electronically to them, they
They
create
give
it.
you a power. Okay.
Yeah, the police have, like, not receptionists, but they've got people on the desk. And
Yeah,
you call up and say
okay.
there was a fire at this date, or this
24/7.
address,
Yeah,
and even if they haven't attended, they
Oh,
will have
great.
it off.
Okay, cool.
So we drum into our investigators. It's not hard to do, just ring the station. Sometimes you might have to ring them 3 times before you get connected, but life's like that, technology.
So in fire rescue, any fire that occurs and they suspect that criminal act has occurred, they're told to call the police and not leave the scene
Yep.
until the police.
It's
are
a guide,
there. Yeah.
And because we attend so many car fires like you guys and that, we call them, leave it to it. We don't
Car
do it.
fires, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, similar sort of thing. So the other part of this strategy is we started to go on, with a fire call, something's happened, you have a reactive. We're now starting over the years, 10 years and the last couple of years with having a proactive approach. So what we do is our investigators attend brigade training, and we don't talk about crime scene prevention completely, but we just do a general overview. It takes about 40 minutes. We just talk about the deliberate lit fires in our target area. So the Weatherburn one, I'm going to one of their brigades next week, Linwood Park. So we're actually being proactive. And during this winter season, we will get around to every brigade in our zone and talk about protecting the crime scene. Just general stuff, what you see. And talking to a bloke, we wouldn't believe it. The next day, I goes to a job. They sent me this map. It was in Forbes' fire rescue area down the road from the investigator. Oh, he had worked everything out. Boom, done. Thank you. Good intel. And they actually use handy GPS or give us a Google pin drop where the fire is, because what actually happens in that Georges River Airs area, you go walking around the bush, and one fire I went back 3 times to find it. I'm glad I did, because it's on the top of an edge, and the person who lit it, he or she, was trying to drop it over the edge to go into the army camp. Only that one fire, I don't think the first one's in the area. So that proactive training of our brigades helps us and reminds the OICs and the crews, have you called police for this? And our duty officers are now changing their attitude. They're pressing the button for police because they've got to fill this form out.
So
Okay.
just to tag on to your PAL conversation. So Angus has just typed into the chat of our Zoom meeting. RFS have an arrangement with the New South Wales Police Force to create a PAL number or vet number, but a PAL number should be created if the car attends.
The car attends, yeah.
So especially down here, that they could be a couple 100 meters down a fire trail in remote, semi-remote bush. They won't typically go looking for it unless we have a truck sitting there. And so should we be gone, a couple of minutes after putting the fire out, we can then send them the details of the location. They then have it in their system so they can cross correlate.
So the other thing is like that spreadsheet and things like that, I would share that with the crime manager. So when I send things because when I was working, I had a computer at home and the software was more updated than the RFS governance system. So I learnt years ago, when I create my Word documents at home, I save them as PDF and upload them into our icon if I need to send anything to the police. We have a memorandum of understanding with police, and it has to be approved before things are released, reports and things like that. But if you're talking about some of that information relating to a particular fire, that's approved, and we just keep our fire investigations unit involved in that one. So the lessons learned, and we won't be too long, so we'll finish up this. Be professional in your dress. We've got these brand new overalls. You haven't seen our overalls
No.
before.
There's got new ones as well.
Have you?
Black,
Yeah.
beautiful in the sun and the heat.
They're lovely. But, size, and there's been supply issues and change when they brought it over and all those other issues. But, be professional in your dress, your attitude and your approach to staff, because our staff follows is an issue sometimes, and follows and staff. And police respect the rank. So if you can wear your rank, I have those Forbes sort of retired inspector's rank, and I keep it. I'm about 1 or 2 people in the state that does it. But I want to do it, and they give me the respect of the rank, not the person. So work in our zone, we work as a team, we work with our police, and try and promptly submit your reports. We have a general time frame to actually put things in. That's fallen by the wayside for some people, but I'll get there eventually. But the police event numbers, I keep saying PAL and police event numbers are vital, because one of the things from the 83 that we had down to the 8 is because we're involved with the police. And I'll share this one with you. I was in a place called Canada on a cruise, and I get this little email and text from something was missing from a fire truck, and the crime manager wanted to know what they look like and what they could do with this, you know. And then, you know, you get a relationship, and they added things and they didn't find it. It was a drip torch. But most important, do not chase police up. Don't ring them and ask them what's going on. They will tell you. The matter I'm dealing with on from the weekend, I chased the event number and I want to get the LIC. Then, you know, oh, very good and very supportive. But they won't tell you what's happening, but they'll follow up with a police statement. If you need a statement, I've suggested to our people, I've had you, Forbesy, a police officer asked me for a statement, he'd ring me up. Oh, can you give me a statement, Sweens? Yeah, mate, I haven't got my pen. Can you email when you want it? So I have a date to work to, because when we work to our statements, we actually need to have it approved and checked. Then it needs to go to our legal branch. Then when you get to court, legal branch will ring you and say, can you send me a copy of your statement and reports? Okay. And after a nice lady said that to me at the beginning of COVID, I realised that they haven't got access to all the things. And one of the things was statements on that one. I was a major one that I went through and went into the prosecutor for a briefing, and the prosecutor had only half of my material, and it was a big folder of maps and things and statements and reports, and only half. Says, oh, can you send that to me? Not a problem. Sat there that night, went bang, bang, bang. Even to the point of the overnight, she said, can you send me something? And I happened to go to a bit of public Penrith, and I sent it. And when I got to court the next morning, the ink was still wet on the photocopier. Of course, it was fresh off the prosecutor's photocopier, went into court, and the judge said, Mr. Sweeney, is this your, he had 3 different terminologies for me. So that's very important. So, you know, just submit outstanding, or submit outstanding police statements. I mean, they really should shine, as some people have been involved in it. Lots of details, diagrams. I used to say to the people when I trained them many years ago, if you put a really good report and statement in, and I've done that a couple of times in the quarry fields, and I've delivered them, and the coppers rang and said, you're not required, mate. We had a court date. They don't want you anywhere near the box. I love that. But now I need to go in the box to get me lunch money. Develop your report writing skills and mapping skills. In the last couple of months, I've actually had to rejig, and Bob was telling me he actually used to teach report writing many years ago in TAFE. So it's good to professionally, and a good colleague teacher of mine who was a manager said, Paul, you need to learn something. You need to unlearn, then you need to relearn. So when I left the job, instead of reviewing reports, I had to unlearn and relearn how to investigate and submit the reports. And as a zone, you share the experience. So we have a very quiet, closed group. We don't share over confidential stuff. If we're doing a job, we've had one outside our local LGA involving someone, and so we share that stuff that something's actually happening with that one. So in terms of workload. And I'm finished. Aren't you lucky? Oh. Hey, they're all cheering here, crowd. No questions from the floor. Benny.
No questions in the chat so far. Just a quick clarification, tow ban for our non RFS or fire rescue
Is
total fire ban.
total fire ban. Yep.
And a few others like that. So I'll stop sharing the presentation.
Stay up here, stay up here. Well done, thank you, Paul. And I think that, you know, if we're looking at the 80 down to 8, I think you're one of the reasons why it's come down.
No, there's a lot of other people. No, there's a lot
doing that area.
of other people who are doing a lot of work. The problem is, Forbesy, I'm not getting any younger, you know, but what we need to do is mentor people up. And I remember your time as a trainee wildfire investigator, and you've got red arrows that show. But what we need to do is mentor, and things have changed. Society's changed. The court system, the coroner's court's coming out, and seen what they did with mental health. And a lot of money went thrown towards mental health, and rightly so. Ambulance got it, and you guys got it, and you know the other things. And we're going to have a change in society. Society doesn't want, you know, they might be short of $1 in some of these places, but those people don't want smoke in their house, you know, and they want to do things. Thanks for your nice words.
Yeah, but you know, when you do look overseas at other jurisdictions, especially the US, and that's what Ed Moore's called it. He was LA Sheriff, County Sheriff as well. He said that you know, it all starts with investigating every fire, as you said, because when you do pick up these serial arson cases, you've got to understand that first fire. So there's always something that happens in that first fire, that why they lit that first fire. And if you understand that and investigate that properly, that first fire, then you've got better chance of stopping it before it gets to too many. He's very strong on that, about that, and you're spot on. You've got to go to all the jobs to understand what's going on.
And if you create that simple spreadsheet through your systems, you can see the patterns come up. And then, you know, if they're going to go and grab someone, that's got nothing to do with me. One, you know, the police go and do that, you know, that's their thing, and I'll do it, you know. But the actual international learning, going to Las Vegas, that conference, and actually the thumb drive there is for the Victorian conference in 2018. I haven't touched that thumb drive. It's actually was that one, but you know, had a couple of days with Angus, and here we go.
One from Mark.
Thanks, Paul. Too many train tunnels. I dropped in a few times.
Good on you.
That's what you always do, Mark. You drop
out.
Excellent. Right, well, thank you again, Paul. And listen, Paul, appreciate you coming to share your knowledge. It's always important that we have these type of education nights. So really, really good. That just about sums it up for the night.
Stop recording, will you?
So our next education night. Oh, it's backwards. Why is that?
Oh, damn shame.
Is our AGM, which is going to be the 3rd of August. We're having a social night, so not an education night, just our AGM and social night. It's at, I've forgotten the place already.
Cricketers Arms.
The Cricketers Arms at Prospect. Thursday, the 3rd of August. We've booked a table. More information to follow. Just check our website. We'll be emailing all our members. So come along to that. And there'll be a cost, but it will discount the costs. We'll announce those costings soon. And then the next education night will be October, to be announced. Don't know what we've got planned for that, but it'll be great. Come along to the AGM and you'll get to see this fellow up live in front. You can get a photo with me too if you want. Sure. Everyone wants one, don't they? Anyone? Just kidding. True. Okay, well, thank you again. Thank you for all coming in. We'll record this and put this on our YouTube channel. I'll work out how to do that later. And we'll see you next time. Thanks a lot.